Good morning. Yesterday, November 15th, at 6 p.m., officers from the Vallejo Police Department were dispatched to the area of Hidden Brook Parkway and Highway 80 in the city of Vallejo regarding a 65-year-old woman who had been found and she had been assaulted. And it was a very, very serious assault on her. Passersby found her, summoned aid for her, and she was taken to an area hospital. At that point, our detectives had the opportunity to speak with her and determined that she had been kidnapped at gunpoint from in front of a store in the 100 block of Plaza Drive in the city of Vallejo. She had been forced to drive to a location within miles of the point of her abduction, where she was assaulted, left unconscious, duct taped in a ditch. The suspect had fled in her vehicle. As I stated before, passersby summoned aid for her, were kind enough to take good care of her and get her treatment. They also provided information to the police, which ultimately assisted us in making the arrest. During the period of time that she was out there, family members of her were contacted via telephone. The caller demanded money in exchange for her return. As Vallejo police officers were developing leads in this case, the suspect was located in the area of the abduction and taken into custody. At that time, he was found to be in possession of some of the victim's property, a replica handgun, and her vehicle. The assailant in this case is a 14-year-old male who lives in Vallejo. He was processed and ultimately booked into Solano County Juvenile Hall on charges related to the assault, attempted murder, carjacking, robbery, and kidnapping for ransom. And that's what I have to say on that. Any quick questions?
The relationship between the victim and the assailant?
None.
None at all?
None.
They were unknown to each other?
Correct.
This is a random attack?
This appears to be a random attack, yes.
Is the suspect someone that's known to the police?
He is known to us.
Did any of the witnesses see the actual attack itself, or did they just come upon the woman?
Initially, they came upon the woman.
So no one witnessed?
No one witnessed the actual abduction.
What was the woman able to tell you about how this kid approached her with the gun, what he said or did before she became unconscious? More details, I guess.
More details on that. I don't know that we can share that. The last thing we want to do is jeopardize any prosecution in this case. But we did have a conversation with the victim. She's an incredibly strong, insightful woman. But as for any other details as to what she said, I don't want to share that at this point.
In what condition is she in, or how is she doing today? She's still hospitalized?
She is.
What
Other than
kind
that,
of
I don't want to.
injuries?
I don't want to talk about her injuries. I will say that they were serious.
She's likely to survive, though.
Yes.
And how integral were these passersby to helping this woman? Could you talk about that a little bit?
Certainly. I think in the kind of the greatest sense, they were tremendously important. They got her aid. I think it could have had a different result had they not helped her. So I think they're great citizens, and we appreciate what they did.
You say attempted murder. Why attempted murder?
Some of the facts of the case, some of the facts of the assault lead us to believe that.
Does this seem, I mean, obviously with duct tape and so on, I mean, this seemed like a premeditated thing that this juvenile was set out to do? Is that what your department believes?
We don't really have any kind of thoughts on that at this point that we want to share. Most people don't walk around with duct tape. Most people don't have duct tape with them. But as for any other elements of that, we want to hold that.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the circumstances of the kidnapping? Did he approach her as she was getting into the car? How did that work?
I can tell you that it occurred within a parking lot. And it happened in the parking lot, and she was forced to drive to a location.
Has the suspect made any admissions of any kind?
I don't want to comment about any statements he may or may not have made to us.
Can you say which store this was in front of?
No, it's 100 block. There are a number of stores up there.
What information was the...
I'm sorry.
Shopping, working, what was her, and this was around 6 o'clock last night?
Around 6 o'clock.
So was she coming out of a store that maybe she either worked in or was?
She was coming out of a store.
Right, she was found at 6 o'clock, but when do you think she was abducted?
Probably an hour and a half before that.
So about 5 p.m.?
Somewhere in that area, yes.
This replica handgun is not a real gun.
It is not a real gun. It's a gun that looks precisely like a handgun.
Can you talk about just as someone who's been in law enforcement for this short time that you know, for as long as you have been?
Short time, thank you.
You know,
Appreciate that.
Your thoughts on just the age of the suspect and the nature of the crime?
There is not usually such a wide gap in age between victims and suspects.
Than his youth and the seriousness of the crime.
It's awfully, any age is the wrong age to do something like that, but at that age we certainly don't expect most 14-year-olds to do something of that nature.
How was she able to get away?
She was found in that location, and I don't want to talk about how she got away from the assailant, but she was freed and she was found.
Can you say what part of Hidden Brook Parkway?
In the area by Highway 80,
Was she
So
clothed?
right by McQuarrie?
in that area.
Okay.
But she was unconscious, so how was she discovered? People walking by?
Correct.
And at what point did she regain consciousness so that you were able to talk to her? At the hospital? Or?
At the hospital, we were talking to her. She had been, she was conscious when she was found.
Now, the lieutenant who wrote the press release, I don't know if that was you, used the word egregious, so I think we're all kind of wondering the severity of the attack, if you could quantify that for us at all?
And I wrote that. It was an extremely serious, violent attack. That's how I can quantify it for you and
Is there
kind of
sexual-
expound upon that for you.
Sorry, is there sexual assault involved here?
Sadly, there is.
And when you say the suspect returned to the area, did he return exactly to that area where she was, and you were there?
He returned to the area of the initial abduction. And at that point, detectives took him into custody.
So you guys were already on the scene, and he comes back around
Correct.
and gets pointed out by.
He came back around and detectives observed him, recognized him, and took him into custody.
Was he driving the victim's minivan?
He had possession of it, yes.
Was the victim found clothed, partially clothed?
No comment.
And was there any surveillance video of the kidnapping, since it was in a popular shopping center?
In any case like this, we want to look and get any information we might have, be it human witnesses, be it electronic evidence, and I can tell you we gathered as much as we could across that spectrum.
He's a juvenile. Will we try to charge him as an adult?
He is a juvenile. That decision is entirely with the district attorney, and the DA will make that decision, and we would support what they decide.
Did it seem like he may be trying to go back for another victim? Is that why he went back to the same spot?
I don't know. That we don't know.
Can you tell us more of what he asked on the phone when he contacted the family members? What demands he made in order for their safe return, or what kind of a deal did he try to broker?
I can only tell you that he demanded money. And the amount of money and the surrounding, how that he wanted that to happen, I don't want to talk about, but he demanded money.
And Jim, sorry if you mentioned this or this that way. How did the suspect force the victim to give phone numbers or contact information for relatives, or how was that made? How that contact was made?
I'm sorry. I don't,
Did the suspect force the victim to tell him contact info for relatives? How did the suspect end up calling the family? I'm sorry, this was absolutely.
no, it wasn't. I don't know that we would want to share elements of that part of the crime at this point.
Was the ransom paid?
No.
When you're talking about quantifying this, I mean, obviously, it is what it is in a situation with the city that is not a stranger to violence, but is this one of the more egregious that you've seen, regardless of the age of the suspect here? I mean, in your law enforcement history, kind of what she was talking about?
You know, I think anybody throughout the span of their career in our business, you see, you know, many good things and many bad things. This is a very bad thing. But like I stated earlier, she's a phenomenal woman, a strong person who's got a very strong and supportive family, and there's a positive there. I mean, you always try to find something good in everything, and in that I find a great, strong woman. I'm proud of how the police department functioned. I'm proud of the citizens that helped her everywhere. So I don't know if that answers it too much or too little, but it was a bad thing, and we hope this type of thing never happens again anywhere.
And she's a Vallejo resident?
No, she's a Solano County resident.
Are you looking for any other suspects in connection to this crime?
No.
If this boy was known to you, has he been known to do anything quite like this?
Based upon his age, I would only say that he's known to us, and I want to add nothing further at this point.
Can you clarify I thought I read in the press release or somewhere that she was quote dumped in the ditch by him, or did she get away?
That's where she had been dropped off. She had been placed there.
So did he mean to drop her off, I guess?
I don't. So you'd ask. That's a question as to what he was thinking and what he might have said, and I can't comment to that. I'm sorry.
But she was unconscious for a time in the ditch.
Correct.
She became conscious. When the
Correct.
people found her, she was conscious.
Correct.
What's the next step here? What do you guys do? I mean, he's been booked, he just gets arraigned and so on, or do you have more follow-up?
I think at this point, it's going to be a matter of us getting the report to the DA, for the DA to review all of the facts, and something like this based upon his age and the crime that he's accused of. I think they'll take some time and decide the direction in which they want to go. And again, we support what they decide. I'd like to point out that because of kind of the different circumstances of this case, we called the DA last night, and they were kind enough to send a deputy district attorney out here to talk with us and to help us, and so we could take the investigation the way that would best suit prosecution.
When she was found in the ditch, she said she was bound with duct tape. Her arms and legs were bound, her mouth.
She was bound.
You won't be more specific?
I won't. I apologize. Any other, then I'm going to stop and
Can you state your name and title, and then your just so we have it
Sure.
recorded, and then what role you're playing in this investigation?
my name is Jim O'Connell, and I'm a lieutenant with the Vallejo Police Department, and I am in charge of our investigations division. And I obviously this isn't something that you guys would put out there, but I want to thank you guys for coming here and covering this for us. I know you're all busy and doing important stuff, and we thank you for doing that. So,
How long would you
Cool.
say this entire incident lasted?
hours.
Hours?
I mean, it was resolved quicker than most. It was resolved quickly. The arrest was made within hours. A great deal of the evidence was collected within hours, and for that, as a boss, as someone that takes public safety for the community seriously, that makes me happy, and I'm very proud of how the police department functioned and came to this result.
What time was the arrest made? Because you said around 5 o'clock she's abducted, around 6 something
Mhm.
she's found. Around what time was the arrest made?
You know, I should have brought the arrest report, 7:38, somewhere in that area.
So a couple hours later.
Yeah, a couple hours. It was pretty contemporaneous to the whole thing.
So she was arrested sort of at dusk. I mean, I'm abducted at dusk.
Correct.
You know, not dark.
Correct.
Not 4 o'clock in the afternoon light.
Yes.
You said that the citizens who found the victim provided some help to the police to help you find the suspect.
They did.
Be more specific about that?
No, I can't. But they were helpful. They were great citizens. We appreciate them.
And how many helpers were there?
No comment. So,
Had you
all right.
guys already been looking for her real quick? Had you been already looking for her when the call came in that they had found her?
No.
Okay,
No.
so you weren't aware of the abduction before passersby called?
Correct. Okay. Correct. Right on. Again, thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Thank you.
Will there be further updates?
I turned yours
today?
off.
Will there be further updates today?
No, and this will be it.